and welcome back to Emily Rose Sews. My name's Emily and today's video is going to talk you through one of the most brilliant weekends I've had recently, which was a trip to the Stitch Festival in London, followed by a hotel stay in Norfolk and the East Anglia Yarn Festival. So if you're interested in having a look at what those two festivals and shows look like and the things that I bought, then stick around. It might take me a little while to get through some of the footage that I have taken, so make sure you grab yourself a drink and maybe a knitting or crochet project to work on while we chat. This is the first time I've been to shows of this size, so I was really excited to see how this weekend was going to be. The first stop we made was London. So my mum and I both live in the very southeast of England. It does only take us about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get into London. So I drove myself to my mum's house to pick my mum up and I drove us into London for the Stitch Festival. We had done a little bit of research, so we did find a car park nearby. So we managed to park pretty close and walk straight to the Business Design Centre, which is where we were headed for the Stitch Festival. I'd never seen or been to this building before, but it was pretty cool. It didn't look at all what I expected to look like on the outside. Indoors was pretty much what I expected, I think. It was very busy. We'd already discussed the fact that we didn't want to work in the same direction as everybody else, so we did plan to go inside and try and head over maybe to a back corner or to go upstairs or do something slightly different to try and not be caught up with the same people as walked around. So we headed straight inside. We looked at a couple of stalls nearby, but then we headed up the stairs to the first level. The first stall we stopped by was Town Farm Loveliness. This lady was really lovely, and it turns out that she actually recognised my mum. I don't think my mum even knows where they know each other from, but this lady remembered my mum's name and everything, which was quite impressive. So we had a little chat with this lady here, and she had some really gorgeous slow stitching packs, I guess, like little packages of fabric and trims and ribbons and, you know, buttons and little bits and bobs. They were really gorgeous and I was quite tempted. My mum did get one of these. They're really sweet. The actual idea is that they're to make a notebook cover, but I don't know whether my mum will actually do that or whether she will just do her own stitching. I'm not sure what her plans are, but the packs were really lovely. This stall here is the UK Alpaca Yarns. These had some absolutely gorgeous yarns. It was so soft, the stuff I was looking at. I was really drawn to these pastel colours. They were very soft. I really loved the lilac-y one, but it was actually, the name of this yarn was actually grey, which threw me a little bit because I was quite confident it had been lilac. They also had some really pretty cardigans made up. I stupidly didn't look at them while I was there. Well, I did see them to film them, obviously, but I didn't look into the patterns. And I've since been back on their website to see what the patterns were, and they aren't on there. So they must have been patterns from somebody else, but I'm not sure who they are. They're really sweet though. After checking out a few of the stalls on the first floor, we did go upstairs where we got quite a good view. The layout of the higher floor is that it's almost like balconies that go around the edge of the building, so you had a real view over the sort of centre of the floor below. The first place we stopped upstairs was actually Pincushion. My mum knows Jenny. She sort of sews with Jenny and has been to her shop many times. Her shop was previously Pincushion Pantiles because it's in the Pantiles at Tunbridge Wells, but she is actually moving now to Rye. So check out Jenny's website at Pincushion. She's got gorgeous patchwork and sewing supplies and resources, so that she sells fabric. She's got an online shop, and she will also very soon have a sort of in-person shop in Rye, so that's something definitely to check out. I really loved this shawl here. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Felicia maybe. This is from Yarns You Like. I really loved this shawl, and they had it made up in 2 different colours as well. So this is definitely something that's now on my radar. It looks like you could probably do it in one skein as well, which is really handy because I've got lots of skeins of yarn that I love, but I only have one of. So this is definitely a pattern I'm going to look into because I think it might work well for me. The Pigeon's Nest had some really cool crocheted things as well. I really liked the look of the kit here for this striped cowl. It's a really simple concept, and I probably wasn't willing to spend quite a lot of money for her yarn because I know that I've got the yarn to be able to do this at home, but I really like the idea. I also totally fell in love with her Easy Breezy Tea pattern. I did like the yarn she'd used, so that did help. Obviously I was immediately attracted to the nice pastels and the pinks in there, but I am looking for more garments to wear at the moment that I can make for myself. So yeah, that's definitely something that sort of stuck with me. I kept thinking about it after I'd left, so I think I might end up looking at that pattern probably to buy. Next we came across Imogen Melissa, and this is definitely one of my favourite stalls of the weekend. I'd never heard of them before. They had some gorgeous beads and sequins and kits. I always used to be into embroidery. I do love sewing. I haven't done it very much probably over the last few years. I did go through a short phase of it last April, May time. I did some more, but not a huge amount. This stall had some really sweet little felted shapes there, and they're all ready to stitch onto. And they had this gorgeous display of beads and sequins all in trays, and they had I don't remember the price, but it was a certain price for a certain number of these little pick and mix bags that you could choose. So Mum and I had a right old rummage through all these beads and sequins and chose ourselves a little selection to come home with. She also had some really tiny embroidery hoops, which I did end up picking up. She advertised at the show a monthly kit, and I must say I really am quite tempted. That's something I think that would help keep me sort of accountable and keep me motivated to keep going. If I was getting regular sort of instalments of the bits and bobs that I needed, I think that would be really cool inspiration, and would really spur me on to do it. So I've definitely been thinking about that. But you'll see as a theme throughout this sort of, well, my life, I guess, but particularly this vlog, is that I'm not lacking in inspiration. It's probably the funds and the time that I'm lacking. So yeah, it's finding the balance between stuff that I really, really fall in love with, but also, do I really need it? And am I actually going to use it? Next, we stopped off at Lottie and Albert. I really, really like Lindsay. I have watched lots of Lindsay's podcasts. She's someone that I've watched for quite a long time. I do have some of her boxes as well. So Lindsay runs a Curate crochet box, which is a monthly subscription to a box that you get all of the things that you need as well as a pattern in this monthly box. Yeah, you get the yarn, a hook, you get stitch markers and buttons or clips or whatever you need to do whatever that project is for the month. She's got really good taste, she's really fun, and also the finished products are really varied, so it's not always, it's not sort of blankets and scarves and that sort of stuff. I mean, it might be a shawl or a scarf, but she's done some really cool, quite different things, which is nice. The one I got at home, I've got a kit at home. I didn't sign up for the monthly instalment, but I did fall in love with one of the things that she had in her boxes, and I contacted her and she had one left over, so I just bought one of the one-off boxes. But it's the Peggy Sue peg bag, and I saw it hanging on her stall. So I saw the peg bag hanging up on her stand at the festival, and it did really make me think that I should definitely get mine out and get it going. So I do need to have a little rummage and find it. I know it's up somewhere quite high in my craft room, stored out of the way because it's been there for a number of years. And we also went to Make Your Own Happy. I really loved this stall. I fell in love with her little kits. There are some stitched flowers and seed heads, which I really, really liked. And I also loved how she had these little felt flowers displayed all around her stall. And they were sat in little cotton spools, which I thought was really a lovely idea, and they were really pretty. That was the last of the stalls I ended up filming at the Stitch Festival. It had been very busy and there wasn't much space, so it was pretty crowded, and where it was indoors it felt a bit stuffy and hot. They had some stalls ready to go and buy food and drink from, but at the point we were probably, looking back sort of in retrospect, we were probably about 2/3 of the way around when my mum said, "Oh, shall we stop for a tea?" And at the time, I was so desperate to get outside into the fresh air, so we agreed that we'd quickly whiz round, we'd finish off inside the show, and then we'd head outside into the fresh air, have a little walk, and go and find somewhere else to grab some refreshments. We ended up at Pistachio and Pickle Dairy, which was the most gorgeous little quaint tea, a cheese shop essentially, but also like a little cafe, and I had the best cup of tea ever, which sounds ridiculous, but it was a fantastic cup of tea, proper tea bag, and then the most incredible cheese toastie. I mean, you'd like to think that a cheese shop does a toastie well, but it was phenomenal. So Mum and I shared a toastie and we had a nice hot drink. It was nice to sit down. We sat outdoors in the sunshine. It was chilly. It was cold, but it was lovely to just be outdoors. So we had some fresh air, a cup of tea, a bite to eat, and this little dairy was right outside Loop, London. And that was definitely something that was on our hit list for the day. So after our tea and refreshments, we did stop off at Loop. Loop is a really well-known, quite famous really, yarn shop in London. It is bucket list kind of stuff. It is incredible. My mum had wanted to take me there for a really long time, and this was the perfect opportunity. It is a stone's throw from the business design centre where we'd been for the festival, as was the little tea shop. It was all really, really close. I didn't get too much footage from inside of Loop, but hopefully you'll get the gist of what an incredible shop it was. And if you're ever in London, I definitely recommend you check it out. As you go inside, there's a whole wall or display of sort of threads and cottons, which were really cool. I loved how these looked. I did have my eyes peeled for some cotton because I do love making dishcloths, but I didn't really find anything that I was too drawn to in terms of cotton in here. What I was drawn to was some of the Life in the Long Grass yarn, and it's sock yarn, particularly, as always, the nice soft pastels. So I was debating here some of the lilacs. There were some creams, pale blues, pale pinks, my usual sort of colour choices. And there were also, not in the pastel range as such, but some absolutely stunning hedgehog fibres yarns. There were actually some really bright ones that I loved the look of, but again, I do only have a certain amount of money, so I had to be a little bit sensible. There was also this gorgeous mohair. It was stunning, but I can't remember the exact price, but it was about £40 a skein, so I did have to put that down. Mohair was something that was on my radar. I was definitely looking for some while I walked around, but I know that in the projects that I'm going to use it for, it's not going to be the focus of the project, and it seems silly buying expensive stuff when it's probably not going to be what draws your eye to the project. So I think I'm going to go with something that I buy online, like some Drops Kid Silk mohair or something similar that's a little bit less expensive. After we were finished in London, we got back in my car and I drove from London to Norfolk. We had to stop en route just to give my car a little bit of charge, so we popped into Waitrose and grabbed some bits for dinner. We didn't really want to have to go and spend lots of money on a meal out, so we decided to get some little cold bits to pop in our hotel room. So we had a bit of a picky, salady, picnic style dinner, and got washed, and we sat in our PJs and we knitted and crocheted together, which was lovely. We woke up the next morning to a really lovely, bright, sunny day, which is just what we needed. It was still chilly, being the sort of middle to end of March, but it was lovely to see the sunshine. We got showered pretty early, and we didn't have a rush because we didn't have tickets for the Yarn Festival until 11 a.m, so it was really nice to take our time in the morning. We had a couple of cups of tea, we had breakfast down in the restaurant at the hotel, and we went back up to our room to do a little bit of knitting as well before we had to leave, which was nice. After we were checked out of the hotel, we headed off to the East Anglia Yarn Festival, and this was at the Norfolk showground. It was only about 12 to 15 minutes from our hotel, which is handy. We deliberately did book somewhere that we knew was nice and close for the morning. There was loads of parking. Everything about the showground was really, really easy, so it made it so smooth in the morning. There's loads and loads of parking on the fields, so we just pulled up onto the grass and headed down to the showground entrance. I did stop off at Knitting for Fun as one of the first stalls we went to, and that's because they had a huge selection of cables, knitting needle tips for interchangeables, the attached cables and tips. They had everything you could have needed in terms of knitting needles and crochet hooks. I feel like every time I start a new project, I buy a cable and a set of tips, and yet every time I go to start another one, I don't have what I need. So I decided that I was just going to buy a whole selection of cables, so I knew I had some spares. So that was good. I did go for the 360 tips, and they are the swivel ones. So they don't look any different to the ones that I've used before, but they're not fixed. So the actual cable twizzles in the attachment, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I had absolutely no idea that Knit Pro Symphony do actually have a range of yarn. So that was news to me, but I did fall a little bit in love with it. There was a really nice white speckly colour with some sort of neon colours that I really, really loved. This was actually as part of Emily Fold's stand, not as part of the Knitting for Fun stand, but the Knitting for Fun did have some, which I really loved. I also saw this mohair. Obviously the colours really drew me to this gorgeous little bowl. I'm not sure how you pronounce this because I've heard some really different pronunciations. I was calling it Isaiah, which is what I've heard other podcasters call it. So that's what I'm going to go with. I found a project that I really love that needs a boucle yarn and some mohair. So I was really, really tempted by this pastel pink. I mean, it's barely pink. It's almost like a chalky white, off-white colour that's got the slightest pink tinge, but I really loved it. So yeah, I didn't buy it at this point. I had planned to walk around before I made purchases. So I popped it back down again. That did all then go out the window when I walked over to Tyne and Floyd, because this lady had not only some absolutely stunning yarn, but she was also spinning on her spinning wheel, and she had some really, really pretty fibres. So I loved looking at these sort of fleece fibres because I have started doing a little bit more of my drop spinning. My mum really liked this nice pale pink one with little flecks and neps in, which I was tempted by, but I did discover another one that was a little bit more up my street, and that was this beautiful lilac-y blue. It's really difficult to show the colour accurately on camera, but it is a very soft pale. I'd say predominantly lilac, but very bluey lilac, and it's almost got a bit of a grey tinge to it, but it's really pastel and soft. Next we went over to Yew Tree Yarn Crafts. This lady had some stunning yarn. She also had some fibre as well, but slightly less than the previous lady, and she had some really pretty project bags. The colours I fell in love with, as always, were the pastels, but she had these really pretty sort of spring toned, almost Easter kind of colours, which I really loved. This was back over to the Knitting for Fun stand. This was their range of the Knit Pro Symphony yarn. My favourite one was the sort of peachy colour. I really, really loved that with the purple flecks in. But I could also have been tempted by I did like the turquoises, and also the sort of colourful, almost mini egg coloured one. Blue Fern Yarns was one of my favourite stalls of the show. I really love Shannon's yarns. I fell in love with the jumper garland type display. I love those little jumpers, but also Shannon's yarn is just stunning. I could have spent an absolute fortune here on Blue Fern Yarns. Next up we went to the Dye Shack. The mini skeins were what drew me over to this stand, because they were something that I was wanting to buy. That's one of the biggest things I told myself. I don't need to buy loads of yarn, but I would like to build up my collection of minis. So yeah, when I saw those minis I was really drawn to the stand. Coastal Colours was up next, and this little basket on the top really drew me in. This yarn felt absolutely incredible. I cannot tell you how soft this yarn was, and I have never seen rose used in a yarn before, so I was really intrigued to see rose as one of the materials used, so that was interesting. I do kind of regret, spoiler alert, I didn't buy it, but I really wish I had. I do have regrets that I didn't buy that yarn. The Woolly Tangle had a huge display of yarn out as well. This stall had some really, really beautiful silk alpaca merino yarns. They felt amazing. They were in beautiful colours. They also had some really gorgeous pastel mini skeins, and their ranges of blues was just incredible. I wish I'd got some of those. They would make a really stunning fade. Mothy and the Squid was there, and Gillian dyes the most amazing speckled yarns. Her speckles are fantastic. This one here was our favourite. Next up we went over to Ducky Darlings. We knew that they had some DK boucle yarns because we'd looked online before we went, so this is definitely one we were headed to. They also had a gorgeous selection of sock yarn, and I didn't buy any from this stand, which I again have huge regrets about. They also had a Sophie shawl made up in the most gorgeous colourway, which they didn't have with them, which I was really disappointed by, but I wish I'd chosen a different one and bought one home. So at this point we were about halfway round. We stopped off at Tea Cake and Make, who had some lovely patterns and kits. I'd never heard of her before, but I definitely want to go and check out her website to see what other kits she's got available. And you also saw Knotted by Niche there, so there is a top that I would really like to make that she wears. I've seen her wearing to other shows. I didn't commit this time, but it's definitely something that is on my to make list. Eden Cottage Yarns was one of my favourite stalls. They had some gorgeous mohair. I really fell in love with this granny cowl, and also probably the main attraction at this stall was the yarnlings. Mum and I have yarnlings, we've bought them before. I wasn't going to buy any until I had seen something that Victoria had made using her yarnlings that she had on display, and I ended up caving and getting some. We wandered by the Camel's Yarn, and this was probably one of the most aesthetic and pleasing stalls that was there. It was absolutely gorgeous, and all of her yarns are inspired by Cornwall. Next up was Little Lycac Yarns. I always really love her yarn. She has some sparkle, some DK, some sock yarn, and it's always in a really, really lovely selection of colours. But I didn't stupidly take a picture of the ones that I bought last time, so I was a bit worried about doubling up. I spotted some gorgeous fibre by Pigment and Ply, which was in some really nice rich colours. We also stopped off at Yarn Tings, who also had some absolutely stunning fibre, but these were in totally different colours to the previous stand. Alex Collins was another up there with some of my favourite stands, I think. She had some really, really tasteful things on display. I really regret not buying some of her stitch markers, and there was one of her project bags that I really totally fell in love with. For some reason I didn't have any footage of Ellie's stall from Craft House Magic. I'm not sure why I didn't take any other video, but this is one of her shawls that was on display. It was something that I thought of as soon as I got back in the car. I asked my mum to flick through my phone and see if I could find the label from it, because I was desperate to find this pattern. This is definitely something that I'm already considering choosing yarn for, and I have bought the pattern. Giddy Yarns was the penultimate stall that we went to. It was one of my absolute favourites of the weekend. Unfortunately, because we decided to go to the far side and start from the other side, we got to Giddy Yarns as obviously one of the last stalls that we'd been to, which did mean that our money pots were low, which was a shame, and I wish I'd thought about that more carefully. So Beatrix Potter, I absolutely love Beatrix Potter, and I was blown away by her latest range. So I did manage to get myself a Beatrix Potter mini set. I also love the Winnie the Pooh, and it took me a while to decide between the two of them. I did only go for the Beatrix Potter ones in the end, but I've been on her website, and you can buy the Winnie the Pooh ones currently, so it's something that I'm considering. And then the last stall that we went to here was Maggie and Me. I totally fell in love with the wooden hooks here. They were really, really gorgeous, and the stitch markers as well. I was also really drawn to the bright and bold yarn, which is quite unlike me, but they had a really lovely selection of things. So they were just some of the stalls that we saw and visited while we were out and about for the weekend. I'm going to go through the things that I bought now. I'm really sorry, because I'm conscious that the stuff I'm about to show you is quite rustly, so I'm sorry for the noise. The first bits I've got here are from Purple Stitches, and the theme here is zips. I do some sewing. I don't do masses, but I do like to make some project bags, so I've stocked up on zips. So this is their card, and I'll show you the zips that I bought. They do really lovely coloured zips. It's just nice to have something a little bit different. So I chose some zips, and sorry for the rustling. They had some zipper pulls to attach to the zips. So I've bought some in gold and some in rose gold, so that all of the new zips I've got, I can put the attachments on. So some of the circular ones, some heart shapes, and a couple of daisies. which I thought were really sweet. So yeah, I've got a little, I'm not sure if you can see more, there we go. Little selection of zipper pulls. Put those up there. We then stopped off at Rose Garden Patchwork, and we really like Lisa. She does some fantastic things. She's got really great taste. She had some beautiful quilts hanging at the back of her stall, and she also does some really cool, quirky little project bags and cases and pouches and things like that. The first thing I bought from Lisa was some of this fabric. Again, sorry for the crinkling. She had some really pretty textured fabrics, so I did get some of those. Those down, and these are some little charms for zips on project bags. So I've got some cherries and this little selection, cherry, strawberry and an apple. So I've got some little charms to go on my zips, and then I did get some zips mainly for the charms on the end, but again for project bags. I thought they were really pretty. So that's Lisa at Rose Garden Patchwork. I also spoke about Imogen Melissa, which is where I got some of my sewing bits from. So these were the little tiny embroidery hoops that I bought. Little dinky ones. The tiny felt shapes ready to embroider on. And then a little selection of beads and sequins. Oops. And I dropped the lilac ones. So that's what I bought from there. So everything. So that was everything at the Stitch Festival that I bought. We then obviously went off to Loop. This was a really random purchase, and it didn't have to be Loop that I bought this in, but I fell in love with these. I just think they're so cute. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. They're Rika Rumi, furry. They are incredibly soft. They're really super soft. Again, I don't know what I'm going to use them for. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. My mum did suggest maybe, because I do like making stuff for my daughter, whether I could put a little bit around like a cuff or something of a cardigan for Mabel, or around the edge of like a cowl or something, which is a really good idea. So yeah, I have no current use for them, I just fell in love. This is my Life in the Long Grass skein. So this is the one I chose in Loop. Look at the colours in that. And then it's got some peachy colours on this end. It is stunning. It's called Dreamer. And it's a fine sock, so it's 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. Love that one. Look at those colours. And there was one more purchase from there. This. One little mini skein. It reminded me of mini eggs again. And this is by Lichen and Lace. It's called Bouquet. So 80% merino and 20% nylon. Love that. So that was day one. Then we obviously went off to East Anglia Yarn Festival the next day. The cables I bought. I got 2 short circulars now that I'm starting to enjoy socks a little more. So these are the 9 and 10 inch short circulars. And given my gauge, I have been using a 2.25mm needle. So that's what I chose in that. And I bought 3 cables. They're the Knit Pro swivels. And I bought a 40, a 60 and an 80 centimetre cable. So that's those. This is the fleece I bought. Oh, that's quite an accurate colour as well. It might be a little bit more blue in real life, but it is really stunning, so I can't wait to give this a try. This one looks a bit crazy now. They did offer to rewind this for me, but this was the Ducky Darlings boucle. This is DK boucle yarn. It's called Blush, and it's predominantly a pastel pink, but it does have some other splashes of colour in. So there are some sort of yellows and some darker pink splashes as well. You can see in here some of the darker splashes. So that's really pretty. They did offer to rewind it, like I said, but I figured it would be easier just to get it home and get it wound up into a little cake. So I'll probably do that very soon. What else have we got here? These two are just two mini skeins that I fell in love with. There's nothing wildly special about them. I just really liked them. I actually didn't take any footage of the stall I got them from, and I cannot remember where they're from, so I'm really sorry. That's very unhelpful, but they are just two pretty blue sock minis. This was one of my Ease and Cottage yarn purchases, so I did buy, you see me in the footage picking this up on the stand, and I did fall in love with it somewhat. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with this. One of my ideas is possibly to get some plain off-white yarn, maybe like an off-white 4-ply, and hold it with this to make a Sophie shawl, so you can just see that sort of soft pastel colour come through with the off-white yarn. So that is a suggestion. It's called Sweet Pea, and it is brushed baby Suri alpaca 75% and 25% mulberry silk. That's its label. This is the only one of this when I got there, and I picked it up, had a look at it, and decided not to put it back down again. When I went was it the beginning of March, I went to Yarnival in Tunbridge Wells, and I fell in love with a couple of yarns in the bargain bucket at Madrigal Yarns, and I didn't pick them up, and I really regretted it. And I said to my mum, if he's there at the show, I need to have a look in his bargain buckets and see if those two skeins are there. They're 50-gram skeins, and they were both there, so I felt like it was meant to be. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, but I kept thinking about them after I left them there. I don't know that I would use them together. I was just really drawn to the colours, so whether I do it separately, I'm not sure. I just really like them. I'm sure those of you who have been here a few times now will probably know why I love them, because I'm just really drawn to pastels always. But I really like those. They're named after sweets, so the pink one is Pink Bonbon and the blue one is a Blue Fizzy Wizzy. They're 50-gram skeins, and what are they? 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. So, 2 skeins from Madrigal Yarns. These are the most gorgeous mini skeins from Giddy Yarns. So these are the Beatrix Potter minis. How gorgeous are they? Absolutely stunning. I am so pleased with these. I love them. So this is the Beatrix Potter, one of the Beatrix Potter selections. They have parts, so these are Beatrix Potter Minis Part 3. They're 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. The little label. I'm really gutted I didn't find Giddy Yarns earlier, because she had some other really pretty 100-gram skeins that I definitely would have purchased had I not bought other things. So yeah, I really, really loved Helen's stand. And my final purchase is the one I made from Blue Fern yarns. So this is the 100-gram skein. I think this might be the one you see me pick up actually in the footage of the stall. It's called Cherry Blossom. Oh, yum, 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 yum. And there's a little purpley end down here as well. Look at that. I'm really drawn to purple at the moment. And then to go with it, I got these to go alongside it, just in case. I don't know whether I'll find a single skein project for this and just do it on its own and keep these in my mini collection, or whether I'll put them together. I'm not sure. I feel like it's crying out to be used together really, I think, but we'll see. I don't have any plans for it, I just couldn't leave it there. So that's my little trio from Blue Fern Yarns, and also from Shannon's stall, I got these really sweet little stitch markers. Little flowers. I love those. So that is my haul from the Stitch Festival in London, which was pretty zip heavy, and my yarn from the East Anglia Yarn Festival. The show was brilliant actually. I saw Laura walking around a few times, and I didn't get a chance. She looked so busy. I know how hard Laura works to keep the sort of smooth running of the show, so I didn't stop her to say hello. I wish I had actually. I do have a little bit of regret that I didn't stop her. I did see Sandra from Cherry Hearts while I was mooching around, and she was with Sam from Betsy Makes. It was really strange seeing someone who I consider almost a celebrity of like the yarn world. I got really excited when I saw Sandra and Sam, and I was like, Mum, look, it's Sandra and Sam. And she encouraged me to pop over and say hello, which I did, and I'm really pleased I did. Sandra has inspired me for so many years. She's the first person I ever watched on YouTube in terms of a podcast. So she has inspired me on so many levels, whether it be the yarn that she's used, whether it's in colour combinations, whether it is her patterns, which I've bought many of, or just generally the way that she sort of chats and the way she podcasts and those sorts of things. She's been a real inspiration to me over the years. And when I saw her in person and had the opportunity to chat, I was, over the moon. I'm sure it was very awkward because I'm quite an awkward person. And sorry, Sandra. Sorry to have interrupted your tea stop, but it was lovely to meet you in person. So I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you get lots of time to sew or knit or crochet, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for being here. Bye.